Welcome back to Backup World. Today we'll learn about retention lock for SLA domain in Rubrik. Retention lock, which prevents premature deletion of a snapshot for various workloads, ensuring data security integrity for a specified duration. Retention lock, which will help us to keep the data from unexpected deletions and all. So it will make sure data available until retention period expires. So about retention lock is, once retention lock is enabled, we cannot change retention period of the snapshot. So which keeps ret data until data get expired as per the retention period. We should enable retention lock on SLA domain. So while creating a SLA domain, we can enable a retention lock, or after creating, we can edit SLA domain, and we can enable the SLA retention lock on SLA domain. To ensure to enable or disable retention lock, we should contact Rubrik support. So initially, to enable retention lock, we have to work with Rubrik and get it retention lock toggle to be enabled. So once we enabled, we are good to assign. I mean, we are good to use as a retention lock. So to enable retention lock, we need quorum authorization. So quorum authorization, there will be a couple of users given quorum approval or quorum authorization privileges. So when we assign SLA domain, suppose if we enable compliance mode SLA domain, so while assigning that SLA domain to any workload, we need quorum authorization or quorum approval from the concerned type. So quorum approval is which is a authentication policy created to define when additional approval is required. There are two types of retention logs. One is governance mode, and the second one is compliance mode. Governance mode, to assign, if we enable retention lock on governance mode, first time to assign SLA domain, we no need quorum authorization. Suppose if we need to reassign or remove SLA domain for the workload, we are to reduce the retention, we need quorum approval from the concerned person. It will trigger quorum approval, and we should, contact that quorum concerned guy to approve the quorum authorization. In compliance mode, to assign, reassign, remove, we need quorum approval. And here we could not, we will not be able to r- reduce the retention period, but we can increase the retention period for that SLA domain if we assign, if we enable compliance mode. So suppose we can see here this table. So functionality, governance mode, and compliance mode. So to increase the value of frequency, backup frequency, yeah, it requires quorum approval, but in compliance mode, we cannot increase the frequency. Decrease the value of frequency here in governance mode, we cannot. It, it does not require quorum authorization approval, but in compliance mode, we need quorum authorization approval. To increase retention, it does not require any quorum approvals, but in both the modes, it does not require any quorum approval. But to decrease the value of retention requires I mean, in governance mode, it requires authorization approval, quorum authorization approval. But in compliance mode, we cannot decrease the retention. And to remove the replication target in governance mode, it requires quorum authorization, but in compliance mode, we cannot remove the replication target. And retention lock enable process, to enable the retention lock, we need to follow this process. So we have to create a list of SLA domains which requires retention lock feature to be enabled. So once we created all SLA domains, we have to list them and raise one support ticket for Rubrik and provide the information, following information. So list of compliance contacts. Suppose each and every organization that requires uh, two or three contacts, contact name, email ID, phone numbers are required. And decide authentication method here. There are two types: DocuSign and Scan Docs. So DocuSign is digital signature, or we can scan the documents and sign and share it to the Rubrik. And the customer need to complete authorization as required. We have to complete the required authorization and group the first three steps to be done by customer, and fourth step, Rubrik sends the authentication request to predefined contacts of the customer using DocuSign or for digital signature. So once we provided, Rubrik will send that DocuSign for digital signature. Customer receives DocuSign request and completes the description of the request section. So we have to provide justification of the uh, request, like enabling retention lock or disabling retention lock and all. So we have to provide justification. So each customer contact receives DocuSign. All the three are to the contacts receive DocuSign request, and if two out of three should be provide the DocuSign. So then Rubrik compliance team receives the DocuSign, and they will provide countersign. So once that is done, Rubrik will perform phone verification also. So phone verification, uh, Rubrik will call the each predefined contacts to obtain additional verification, verification. And next one, validation of authorization letter. So Rubrik will validate authorization letter and ensure it meets the necessary requirements. So once it is met the requirement, so Rubrik is good to enable her retention lock. So after successful authorization, Rubrik support will enable retention lock toggle on the SLA domains which we provided. So once retention lock is enabled, so we can see on the SLA domain the retention lock is enabled or not. So we still can change compliance mode or governance mode in that retention while assigning SLA domain. So that's about retention lock. So now we'll see legal hold. Legal hold will be enabled on a snapshot. So once backup is completed, so to retain that snapshot forever or sometime, so we will enable legal hold for that particular snapshot. So once we enable legal hold, it will not expire until legal hold is removed. So next one, legal hold will support only for data center workloads. It will not support for cloud workloads. And legal hold cannot be applied for replicated snapshot from source cluster. Suppose we are enabling replicate legal hold from source cluster. So replicated snapshots, we have to log into replicated cluster, and from there we have to enable the legal hold. And also legal hold does not support for log backups, SQL log backups, or Oracle archive log backups, managed volumes. Uh, these and all legal hold will not support. So legal hold can be enabled where workloads, where we can see the backup completed and where we have perform restore. Uh, there so we can enable legal hold. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Bye.